It was an early morning, and Aqua Wave was getting ready for getting to work. She was working with Roseluck as her assistant, and today Aqua Wave was going to take care of the store by herself, since Roseluck wasn't feeling so well. But since Aqua Wave had worked with Roseluck for the past few years, so she was well used to what kind of customers are looking for, or where the things are located in the store. And of course, Roseluck is trusting Aqua Wave with this. And when she gets to work, she spends some time with either Derpy, who is delivering mail, and other smaller customers that normally comes in there. She normally talks to them within a few minutes before the next customer arrives. But over lunchtime, she decided to take a break. She takes her lunch and goes to the park. But when she's at the park, she hears music. But she looks around, but she couldn't see any pony anywhere. But she knows the sound is from a guitar. And suddenly she hears a singing. But it was something about this song and the music caught her eye on it. She had no idea where this music comes from. She still once again looked around, but no pony at all. But then she looked outside from the park, just maybe among the trees. She figured out that was where the sounds are from. So she walks up to the place, and sure enough, she sees some pony playing a guitar, but it isn't a pony. In fact, it was a griffin. A griffin sitting near the park, playing a guitar and singing. She stood, Aqua Wave stood by the next to a tree, carefully looking, without trying to not be seen, and listened. She could never expected a griffin to be there of all places. And even before that, when the griffin has stopped playing, she had walked away slowly and went to the end of the park and to have her lunch. But during her lunch, she was thinking about this griffin. What was he doing there? And for what reason? Because there weren't any griffins living in Ponyville. The only griffin that she knows who sometimes goes to Ponyville is Gabby, who is helping Derpy or other few other ponies, but that is the only griffin that she knows about. But this was something special. Because as she was sitting there, she's seeing the same griffin walking by her, and he sees her, he nods, smiles, and continues walking. She had no idea who this griffin were and what he was doing there, but the rest of the day, she went back to her work, continued that as normal, and closes the door around 4 p.m. and goes to the market to buy some food. But as she was at the market, she seen the same griffin, but at the end of this market. She runs into some of her friends, Rarity and Applejack. She asked them if they had never noticed this griffin before. Both Rarity and Applejack looked, and they seen and said yes. That is in fact Gold Tuff. He recently had moved to Ponyville from Griffinstone. She was surprised because she never heard that a griffin had moved to Ponyville, of all places. But she didn't ask why he had moved to Ponyville, at least from what Applejack remembers, that Gold Tuff was a musician, and he wanted to explore other cultures and other regions of their music style. And he has actually been traveling around in Equestria from different towns from like Mayhaden, Baltimore, Trottingham, to learn more about different styles of music. He had even been to the Hippogriff's kingdom and learned some about their music styles, and now he wanted to go to Ponyville. But when he arrived, it was like the city, the town itself, the area called to him and telling him this is the place that he should stay. So he actually bought an apartment in the Ponyville. And after that particular day, though, Aqua Wave has started getting used to seeing him more often in town. In fact, he even came to Rosalak's store only a few days later after she saw him for the first time to buy some flowers for his apartment. They even spent a few minutes by talking. She told him that she was never expecting to see a griffin to live in Poland, and he even smiled and said that I couldn't understand, he said. He was always been having the feeling that he wants to travel rather than being staying for one place. But he fell in love with Ponyville. It almost reminded him of a home, a community so well tight and well respected to each other. Even though that they were only talking for only a few minutes, Gold Tuff had asked if she wouldn't be maybe want to spend time with him. That they could go to the park or just go anywhere and he can play some music for her. Maybe so that she can listen to some of Griffin's musics and some other cultures that he had encountered. And she was really interested about this, so she said yes. After that he left though, she was still very much curious about Goldtuff. The next day, she went to the park after her shift was over around 4 p.m. She was waiting for Goldtuff, and when he arrived, he sat down and started playing some of the music. He even had asked her what type of music that she preferred to listen to, and what type of music that she wanted to hear first from what he has learned. She wanted to learn to hear some of Griffin music, and he started playing. And as he would start playing, though, it was like the whole world had just stopped, and the music was like the wind in the trees. She never experienced any such music before. Even after an hour of playing a different music, she was very touched about the music. It really touched her heart, and especially the Griffin music. She had never experienced such beautiful music style. And she even told him that, and he smiled and thinks that there was some songs that his mother had told him, or at least teach him when he was young. She didn't know about that, but she said that was a still very beautiful song. Even after they walked back to Aqua Wave's home, she told him that she really enjoyed their time together and hoped to spend more time with him. Maybe get to know him more better and perhaps be better friends. And even after that first time when they spent some time together, even Goldtuff that same evening was really very impressed about Aquaway. He had even had a thought to maybe ask her out on a date. Even they had only been knowing each other for about perhaps just 2 days, and he didn't want to rush out to that letter right away because for some reason he had some feelings for her, or at least some interest in her, and he wanted to ask her out, but he didn't know if he should do it. But after thinking about that while lying on his bed, he first thought to himself, should I ask her out, or should I not? Should I wait, or should I be brave enough to even ask her? Even though probably she would say no, but Consider from that all that though, he decided to ask her out. The next day, she was really busy at the store. There was a lot of customers, and he couldn't just go in there and spend a few minutes with her, but he decided to ask her after she had ended her shift. Around the 4 p.m., he was waiting outside the store, and she was so surprised even that he was even waiting there. She wouldn't even expect it at all. But she was really happy to see him, and he asked her if she wanted to take a walk with him, just still before that she would go to home. And she didn't mind that. So they just walked together, and then of course, things started to act a little bit different. Because shortly after that, he then asked her if she wanted to go out with him. And she actually said yes. He was a little bit surprised that she decided to go out with him. Because at first, he thought that she would say that she would prefer wait or she wasn't interested in dating at the moment. But when she said yes, it made his heart jump a bit. They decided to go to the movies on Friday. So the rest of the week, everything was just normal. And of course, Aqua Wave found out what Tuff was doing for a living. He was in fact a music teacher. He was actually then also a music instructor, teaching a small school of students about teaching the different music styles and like guitar, piano, drums. He was actually good at different music style instruments. He was good at playing guitar, drums, piano, and even trumpet. He was really good in several different instruments. But on Friday, they went to the movies and they had a great time. Because even after the movie was just over around 5 p.m., they decided to go to a restaurant nearby to have something to eat. And it was just a great time for both. From that moment, Goldtuff, he felt like he was falling in love more with Aqua Wave. Even though that he didn't want to ruin their moment by telling her that. But after their dinner, he actually complimented her why he followed her home so she came home safely. While outside the door, she thanked him for the first date and even kissed him, and hoped maybe to see him for another date sometime later on. That was something that he never expected. Even though when Aqua Wave had talked to Roseluck about this, she was really impressed how good the first date went. After all, Aqua Wave hasn't been on any date for quite some time. Since she and her old boyfriend broke up about a year earlier, they they had never they didn't work out as they thought to. Since they didn't love each other anymore, so they decided to break up. But moving on from that part, for Aqua Wave though, she had moved on from that point of her life. And now she has somebody else to be with. And even though that she just recently started dating Goldtuff, she could just dream for hopefully to have a long life with Goldtuff. When Goldtuff had been asked by Rarity and even Applejack, since they also were good friends, what he thought about Aqua Wave and if he would probably get perhaps married her someday. That was some that was a question that he didn't expect to be asked so soon at least. But he said perhaps that maybe one day we could perhaps do that, but not at the moment. After all, we had only been dating for about 2 weeks. Even after all this time, Tuff has still very much not been losing hope of maybe one day settle down with Aqua Wave. But after some while, Aqua Wave and Tuff had been dating for about 2 years, and they had even moved in together. But one day, some pony knocks on the Aqua Wave's door, and of course, it was Tuff who opened the door. And outside stood a stallion. And the stallion never seen Tuff before. And he believed that he was actually just a friend of Aquawave's. When Aquawave came to the door, she was shocked. It in fact was her ex-boyfriend. He had come back to Ponyville to see her and hope that they could go back together again. But when she said no because she had been dating Tuff and believing him for some time, that surprised her ex-boyfriend. But he wasn't angry or anything. He was surprised. And after that, they even let her inside where they talked. And even though that they never end up back together, Aquawave and her ex-boyfriend remained good friends and there were any problems with that. But during a few months later, when the winter had arrived, the winter was getting colder than usually. And one day during the winter, only about a week after the heartwarming eve, a snowstorm had approached. And even during that time, Aquawave had gotten sick from the flu. And she needed some yearly some flu medicine. So Tuff went to the hospital to get some for her, but when he gets there, he is told that the hospital is out of medicine and that they're expecting her to train for new supplies within a few days. And since Aquawave's condition wasn't serious, so doctors didn't believe that anything, but if her condition were to get worse, she will be brought to the hospital for better treatment until the medicine arrives. Of course, Tuff understood that, and he will make sure to look after Aquawave. And luckily enough, she was getting better, and she got right back to health. But during the same time when she was got back to better, recovered, the snowstorm had made it impossible for a train to arrive. The train track had been covered under at least 8 feet of snow, and the train had impossible to even move. And in fact, it was stuck just near Candle. It was impossible for a train to even get there. And the whole train track from Canterlot to Ponyville was covered in 8 feet snow. Ponies have been working almost a whole day to be uncovered. But that will have to be stopped later on because another snowstorm arrived, which made the entire work useless. All the track they had been cleared was again being covered in 8 feet snow again. But this was even getting worse. A lot more ponies have been been suffering from this pony flu, and some of them were in a very, very bad condition. And they will needed this medicine quickly. But since the train was stuck in Cantlot and was unable to get through the storm, and since the track has been once again covered with more snow and the train is stuck in Cantlot, there were a lot of talks within the community if the medicine would ever arrive in time. Tuff, even though he's a skilled flyer, he's told that he would go flying to Cantlot to get some of the medicine. But even though Aqua Wave and other of their friends have said, that's insane, you shouldn't even do that. One of their friends has said, Tuff, you cannot do that. That is not safe. The winds will knock you down to the ground. But even though Tuff is a very strong flyer, and even skilled one, but he doesn't even care. Only thing he wanted to help others. So during the night when Aqua Wave was asleep, he left the house and flew all the way through the terrible storm. He was nearly knocked to the ground at least a few times, but he pushed through the strong wind and managed to get to the train station where he was greeted by a conductor, and he was so surprised to see a griffin in this particular hot weather. But he was allowed to take at least one box of his medicine, even though that any risk of his dropping the box could be destroying the bottles inside the box. But that was the risk he would had to take though. Of course, Tuff through all the wind, through the strong wind, even though it was nearly pushing him down to the ground several times, even when the box was hit, it was heavy. It was carrying him down to the ground almost, but he didn't want to be failing his mission. To him, this was very important because it turned out one of the ponies that had been suffering from this disease, this flu, was in fact Apple Bloom. Apple Bloom and Tuff had been very close friends. He had been in fact teaching her some different music styles on a guitar and even piano. And from that, he didn't want to see her be suffering from even more. Even he could see Applejack's been sitting by her bed, crying to see her sister been suffering from this type of flu. And as the morning was closing by, the wind from the storm had started to getting smaller, losing strength. When he was right at just outside of Ponyville, the wind had stopped and the snow had also stopped. But from that, he gave his all last strength he had and flew all the way to the hospital, delivered the box, and luckily, none of the bottles wasn't damaged. He was just happy to hear that. And after he had handed over the box, he collapsed to the floor unconscious. The doctors took him to another bed and just discovered he wasn't in a serious condition. All he was exhausted. He had pushed his very limit through the storm back and forward without taking a break, especially carrying a heavy box with medicine. When Aqua Wave walks up the lane that particular morning and finds that Tuff isn't home, she starts to look around in the area, in the neighborhood, asking some of their friends if they had seen him. But Applejack, who was walking back home, she told Aqua Wave that he was in the hospital, and Aqua Wave was terrified. Has something bad happened to her boyfriend? And she runs to the hospital, asks for him, and he takes him to the room, and he's just happy that he's okay, just tired. She sits by his bed the rest of that night, the rest of the afternoon, and he was allowed to return home the same day. But on their way, she scolded him because of this, telling him that was reckless. You shouldn't have done that, even though that you saved a lot of ponies' life that night. But next time, think first before you're doing anything like that. And he promised. And only 4 years later, Tuff had actually proposed to Aqua Wave, and she said yes. And they even had a small wedding near the sweet apple acres, and it was a beautiful wedding. They even went to Las Vegas for a whole week, and they had a great time. And just barely, just barely 2 years later, Aqua Wave did announce she was pregnant, and they were expecting twins. And their twins were born, and in fact was half griffin, half pony hybrids. But Aqua Wave and Goldhuff was really happy to have two daughters of their own though. That was something that Aqua Wave had always wanted to have, a family. And now her dream had come true, and especially to have a family with the one that she loves the most of all, Goldhuff. And even Goldhuff, he could not have asked for a better wife and for a better true love than anything else, because he loves her more than anything in the whole world. And that's how Goldtuff and Aqua Wave found a true love kind of family together. The end.